good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Welcome to our webinar about Melatherm 10, the practice optimized washer disinfector. My name is Alexander, and I'm glad to give you some information about Melatherm in general, about washing disinfection in general, and a little bit information on the accessories for Melatherm. If you need more detailed information on Melatherm accessories, we will have an additional webinar at 11 CET, which my colleague Ferdinand will present. In case you already registered, then you should have received an email invitation, a link. If not, in the feedback area, which will be displayed after the webinar, you will have a direct link to this follow-up webinar on accessories. But now let's start with washing disinfection in general. So, why should you use a washer disinfector at all? Can't you reprocess your instruments manually by hand? So, what is the basic feature? You will save a lot of time compared to manual preparation. As you can imagine, washing and disinfection for every single instrument by hand will take a lot of time, and with a washer disinfector, you will just have to put in the instruments into the washing chamber, start the program, and wait around about an hour, and then you can put the instruments back into the reprocessing process. The next thing is you will protect your instruments because you won't do any physical impact on the surfaces. You won't scrub with a brush or something. There's only water and detergents doing the cleaning and no force, so you will not scratch the surfaces of the instruments. You will protect the environment. Why? Because you save a lot of chemicals, so it's only a few drops of cleaner, neutralizer, and rinse agent which will be used during the process. The rest is regular tap water, so nothing harmful for the environment. You will comply with international standards. So for many countries, it's more or less necessary to use a washer disinfector. For the main European countries, for example, if you do surgery, you will have to use a washer disinfector. And there are other international standards which will call for this. You will add your instrument preparation into the quality management system, so you can just follow the routines. There's no random operation, and you will provide maximum level of infection control for the patients and for the nurse. So you just have to put the instruments into the washing chamber, and no manual treatment, which means you will not have this high risk of cutting your finger or pincing it and getting contaminated by the instruments from the patient. So why use a Melatherm 10 and no other washer disinfector? It's rather easy. You will have an active drying included, which means the instruments after the washing and disinfection cycle are wet, and Melatherm will have an active drying. You will hear about this later in detail, which will allow the instrument surfaces and the inner parts of the instruments to be dried actively using hot air. And the next thing is you will have an automated dosage of agents, so there's no need to manually fill in any cleaner or detergent or something. So you will have a liquid you will put inside, and it will dose automatically. You will have the documentation module included. So if you have the machine for granting extra safety for your legal actions, then you have the documentation which will store every cycle on a chip card or on the network, so you can have a proof of what you did. You will have an optimized washing chamber, which will fit the needs for most practices regarding the size. You have very short cycle times. It will take around about an hour, a full cycle, including drying. You will have low running costs of around about €1. You will hear about this later as well. And we will show you a wide range of accessories and inserts, and this will be presented by my colleague Ferdinand later on in the next webinar. You will have a basic overview here in this webinar, but the detail will follow. All right, so going into the machines details. Dry instruments means safe instruments. Why? So first, you will have a high performance filter inside the Melatherm, which will make sure that the air which is used for drying the surfaces and the inner parts of the instruments will be germ-free. So you will have a HEPA filter or H13, which means the air you will have for drying the instruments will be as good as in the operating theater normally. As I said, not only the outer surfaces, but also the inner parts of hollow instruments will be dried effectively. There are some instruments which will need some manual drying, which includes dental handpieces or ophthalmic instruments, which are very thin or very complex. But if you have standard hollow instruments, you will not need to dry them manually afterwards. And why is drying so important? Two things. It will prevent corrosion. If it's wet, then it's likely to create corrosion, rust, and wet instruments are likely to be recontaminated again by bacteria. So the dry instruments can be stored afterwards directly in the cabinet, in the drawer. If it's just for semi-critical use, and if it's going to surgery, then you will have to wrap it and to sterilize it as the next step. The next thing which Melatherm features is the automated dosage. Melatherm is the only one state-of-the-art washer disinfector with an integrated drawer, which will allow a combination of the three process agents, the cleaner, the neutralizer, and the rinse aid. So there are other units which will have a all-in-one liquid or something, but only with this combination of three agents, you will be able to fine-tune the process to create better cleaning results, to prevent corrosion, to improve the drying. So therefore, you will need this combination of three, and only Melatherm will allow it to have it inside the drawer. And this will save space in the practice. Normally, the decontamination room is not that big, so every square inch is very needed. And you will save the cost for a separate dosing module. So you just put the bottle inside the machine, connect it to the suction lens, and the machine will do the rest. There's nothing you have to buy additionally. And why is it using liquid cleaner detergents? It's very simple, because only liquid agents can be controlled. So if you put powder inside with a spoon, the machine couldn't find out if it's inside at all, if it's inside in the right amount. So therefore, we will need this liquid dosage. The next thing I was already talking about is documentation, which is already inside. You have a CF card interface on the front of the machine and two network interfaces, one at the back for the permanent connection, one in the front for the technician. So this will allow you to have the documentation of the cycles, which is in Europe required by law. On the CF card on the network without any extra cost, because it's already inside the machine. The CF card is in the scope of delivery, and the network cable you will buy for a few euros or dollars or whatever your currency is at the local computer shop. Also, you can display the protocol files without any special software. You can use Word or the Windows Notepad or whatever you will use for writing letters. So now you could say, oh, if I can use Word for looking at the files, I could change it. I could make I could change the result to do some fraud. But no, it's not possible, because every protocol will have a checksum which will allow to determine whether it has been changed manually or not. So it's a very secure proof of authenticity. And for network connection, you will also not need any cost-intensive software, because it's standard internet technology using TCP/IP or FTP. Many practice software tools will also have the possibility to connect it. If not, we will offer the FTP server for download for free from our website in our download area. Streamlining your practice. Let's look inside the washing chamber. You have a washing chamber which is perfectly designed for many medical fields, for ENT, for dental practices, for surgical practices. if you look at the picture, you might say, oh, it's rather small. Yes, you're right. It's rather small compared to other machines, but it's because we have this very smart inserts. You have the drawer, you have the documentation, you have the drawing, and the regular practice will not need more than this because it's spacious enough to take in the half-day's instrument for most practices. It's around about 40 patients for regular dental practice, or more than 30 patients for ENT or gynecology. So the patients for half a day, these instruments can be reprocessed in just one cycle, which will take about around an hour. So it's more or less exactly what the regular practice will need. So, but if you need to have the machine running 2 or 3 times a day, this will not make a problem at all, because you will see later on, it's very cheap to have a decontamination cycle. Sorry. Yeah, that's what I just said. The good thing is you will fit the machine anywhere a washer disinfector once was located or was planned, or where any subcabinet can be taken out of the decontamination line. It's just a 60 centimeter wide, so it's a standard subcabinet size, a 60 centimeter deep, which will fit under any workbench, and it's 82 centimeters high, which is also a standard. So wherever a washer disinfector once was placed or planned, you can fit in Melatherm easily. So coming to time, I've already spoke about this. One cycle in a quick program, which is for solid instruments only, will just take 32 minutes roundabout plus drying. It depends on the water temperature going in and such, but you can calculate on this. The drying time will be around about 20 minutes, so it's less than 1 hour for the quick program, which is for solid instruments, but for gynecology, for example, this will normally do. Then there's the universal program, as the name says, is for universal use, which is for hollow instruments, for more or less any instruments which will maybe put into the washer disinfector. It will take around 37 minutes plus drying. So all in all, you have cycle times from about an hour. If you have the DTA version, which is the 400 watts version, the high power version. There's also 230 watts version, the DTB. It's completely the same unit. The only difference is the running time, and then it's plus 50 minutes. So, but you can calculate round about 1 hour for a complete cycle, including drying. And if you compare this to other washer disinfectors, you will see that it's very extremely high speed. So, not to say a record operation time. Talking about money, I told you before, one cycle in Melatherm is just about €1, including all consumables and detergents, water and electrical power. So in case you don't believe it, here's the calculation. You will have detergents. One cycle will be round about, here's my pointer. The detergents, this will be round about 0.30 euros per cycle, including the cleaner, neutralizer, and the rinse agent. The tap water will be around about 0.12 euros. This is the German prices, so wherever you are, the prices may differ, but I don't think it's that much different. And the electricity will be around about 0.60 euros. So all in all, it's around about €1, and as you see, it's very cheap, so there's no manual reprocessing for this small amount of money. So, simplify your life. Let's go to the accessories. This will be rather quick because Ferdinand will talk about this later on, but I will give you the basic information. So if you only have this half-hour time. You have a wide range of baskets, cassettes, and adapters available for Melatherm. For example, we have these suggestions for sets. This will be the ENT standard set. This would be a standard dental set. This would be a gynecology set. The baskets are very flexible. You can combine it in a very sophisticated way. And even though it's maybe confusing, if you have a look at the price list, which will which can be downloaded later on. You will see there are a lot of accessories which may be confusing, but if you have the idea, you will find it's very easy then to combine the perfect set. So, what instruments will go into which baskets? It's very good to find an overview what instruments are used in the practice at all, and to find out what are the special requirements for these instruments. For example, are there hollow parts which have to be connected somehow? Are the instruments hinged, so they have to stay open so the water can go into the hinges? And the second step would be clustering the instruments according to the requirements. So you can take all the hinged instruments, you can take all the hollow instruments and find the proper insert. And therefore, we have some basic rules. The first thing is check whether the instruments are allowed to be repossessed at all. So you can ask the manufacturer of the instruments, or maybe you have the logo for washing disinfection on the instruments. But if the manufacturer says, no, it can't be repossessed, then it's not allowed. Then you shouldn't do it because this may do harm. So maybe the instruments contain some plastic parts which are not heat resistant, or some minor metal materials which are not sturdy enough. So if the manufacturer says no, then please don't repossess these instruments. Then the next basic rule would be if there's a special rack available for this kind of instruments, for example, a spatula or something, choose this. You can also use other baskets in case you have some other needs, but normally if there's a special designed basket for some kind of instruments, it's highly recommended to use it. And one of the most important rules is if there are hollow instruments, they have to be connected to the injector rail. There is some hollow instruments which can be repossessed without connection, for example, ear spacula or the dental suction cannula, the 60 millimeter ones, so they can go inside the machine without connection, but all other hollows, dental handpieces, a suction cannula for ENT or something, they would be connected to the injector rail. So the flex system, maybe you saw this word before. It's very easily to explain. It can be used like Lego. You can put baskets on top of each other. You will, as you can see here in the picture, this is one flex basket. There's another flex basket put on top, and there's also another rack for ear spacula, as you can see here. So you can combine it as you need it. They're compatible with each other. And if you have a look at the price list, you will see these grids here, and it will show you the need for space for this particular basket. So the more or less the footprint of it. But I think Ferdinand will also explain it later on in the next webinar. Some examples. Dentistry with Melatherm. We have many machines sold in the dental field. They have a wide range of instruments, very different instruments, simple ones, the scalers, complex ones, as handpieces. And it's becoming more and more popular to use cassette systems like this Melastore system, which is very good for the handling because you always have your sets together. It saves a lot of time and gives you some extra safety. So normally the dentist will also need inserts for forceps, impression trays and something, and for the standard instruments. And especially hollow instruments are used in the dental field. For example, the handpieces or scaler tips. For these are adapters available, and you have to make sure that these have filtered water. So they are filter discs available for the universal handpiece adapters. There's a central filter available. So every delicate instrument needs filtered water because residues of dirt may get inside the instruments and get stuck and block it. Gynecology is rather easy. So the mostly used instrument is the speculum. What you can see is a very standard configuration. You will have a big basket, and there's a special basket for a specula. You You can put a lot of specular in here, but also you will see in the next webinar. Then you will have the ENT set. The specialties are here that you have, for example, these no specular, which need to be held open. Normally they have a spring, so you have to make sure that they will be opened. You will use this basket for this, and also you will have a lot of hollow instruments for which several adapters are available: Lure, Lure-Lock, tube connectors, and as many hollow instruments are needed, you can also use these triple connectors to enlarge the number of instruments. Dermatology and general surgery. So this is more or less the same. You would use these flex baskets for the simple instruments, and if you have scissors or something or clamps, you would use this racks. And again, you will have the possibility to connect hollow instruments using this Lure and other adapters. Okay, then more or less the last issue would be the new Metherm process agents. So we started selling our own product range of cleaners, neutralizers, and rinse agents in March. And what are the key benefits? You will have optimized cleaning results. So the process agents are designed for Melatherm in its process. And as a follow-up, you will have a better safety because cleaning results will be perfect. Then you have less consumption compared to other makes. And what is especially good for the customer, there's only one point of contact. So in case there's any trouble with cleaning results or something, you will call us and not the manufacturer of the agent, which will tell us, no, call Melag. And so you have just one stop to ask for troubleshooting. So last but not okay. Just basic information. You will have two different kinds of neutralizers: citric acid and phosphoric acid. In case you don't know which, please ask us which is correct for the instruments for the for your medical field. So here are some customers' voices. I would say you will be able to download this as a PDF later on. This will give the key features again for showing to your customer. I will just skip this because we are a little short in time. And yeah, the last thing is we would like to invite you to our YouTube channel. There will be a product video for Melatherm, which you can also use for showing to your customer, for example. There will be a nice video on instrument decontamination. There will be a link to all older webinars, which you might have missed before. And for sure, you can see the Melatherm on our website. So I will say thank you now.